Okay, good afternoon, guys. This is Simon with ToughTrader.com and Trade and Perform Coaching doing the NQ and ES trade review for Halloween, 10/31/2018. Hope everyone's having a great day, and let's jump into it. So, first of all, we had a big up day relatively. NQ's up 191 points. ES is up 37 points. We're about 20 minutes from the close, right? So when we came into the day, I had a couple of big objectives coming into the day. Number one, I didn't want to get locked on the short side of the trade. Why? Because I knew we've had so many days down that we could push down, but there was other clues, and you want to kind of go through those clues. You want to have a background checklist, and then we use the waves to figure out where we want to get in and out of trades, right? So to start with on the day, right, if we look at ES profile, and let's just erase all these lines. Okay, so what were the clues? First of all, there was a chance that this would run up in a very, very strong fashion. Number one, we opened up above value area high from yesterday on both the TPO and from the volume profile. Okay, clue number two, we were above prior day's high. Clue number three, we were above the week's high, which was set on the 29th, right? Those are three big clues right out of the gate where if you're looking and you're going to go, hey, is this going to fail or not going to fail? You'd at least wanted to get underneath this 2707, right? Additionally, if you look overnight, we were trending up all night long. Additionally, if you look, and what I'm trying to do is set this up so that the turn wasn't very surprising or shocking, right? If you look at the turn from here, what's the first thing that changed over this series of down days from the 18th? Today's Thursday. Tuesday was the first day that we were able to trade above prior day's high, ending the one timing to the downside of the market, right? Oh, and by the way, before I forget, just really quickly, past performance is not indicative of future results. That's lucky for most of us. Let's see. This is for educational purposes only, and there's significant risk in trading derivatives. You can lose a ton of money trading derivatives. So just be very, very aware of that and have a good risk management plan. It's more important than actually your trade entry plan is your max loss on the day, your max loss on any particular trade, and how you're managing that trade on your entries, exits, and stops. Okay, so you put these three clues together by themselves, and you kind of have an idea of where it's going to go, where we have a chance of rolling lower. Additionally, when you look up here and you look through this area, you can see that this is an area, if you look both to the left and further closer in, you can see we've traded through this entire area very, very easily above 2707. You did not want to particularly be short or force a short through this area without significant evidence of that trade presenting itself to be a very high odd setup. And we did have some shorts. We also had some long setup, right? So now that you're within the day, right, and I'm going to focus this on ES because I don't think I have time to do both NQ and ES. So now that you're in the day, right, and we go look at the ES, and we're going to look at it from first a 5-minute perspective, and then I'm going to go down to the waves, right? So if you look at it from a 5-minute perspective, I think I just got tagged on my stop, by the way. I did. So that was plus 11, I think. I think I had it at 95. Let me check. And anyway, that was plus 11 on the trailer, and no worries. Yeah, I gave up a boatload, but I was taking a swing to push all the way through to see how bad we had the shorts. No big deal. What was I going to say? Okay, when we look at the day and you go to the 5-minute chart, which is right – five range. I know I have a 5-minute chart here. Give me 1 second. ES. You know what? It's going to be right here. There we go. So now when we look at the 5-minute chart, here's 8:30 in the morning. That's the first swing low out of the day, right? Notice there's zero push. There's zero push if we eliminate this from the overnight, not using the overnight. Okay. We withdraw that. There we go. Zero push below the first swing low, right? We double checked it, but unable to get below the swing low. No half gap, right, when we open this up. No half gap, no gap fill. Those are all things to tell you right out of the gate, hey, they're attempting an open drive higher. We've gapped above this week's high, which is marked off on the chart from last night, right? And we know that we have, without being able to get underneath this week's high, that everyone who's trapped underneath here, right? So when you look at that picture and you look back over the last couple of days, right? Everyone who shorted underneath here thinking we were going to get another leg down, all those people have to come in and cover as soon as possible. Now, we don't know that there's a whole huge group that's going to do that, but you can make an assumption. Shorting got pretty darn easy, right? Additionally, when you look at this rip down, right, this is a pretty harsh rip down. And one of the things that it did that I keep an eye on, right, is that we got behind the 62 retrace. And normally you would say on trend day up that eliminates the trend day. We got to the 62 retrace, small bounce, and we got behind it. But in this case, this is where when you're making your trading decisions, you have to know what's more valuable, the 62 retrace or this week's high. And I would have obviously went for this week's high because we were looking for longs in NQ and in ES, I guess, down on this backside test, certainly on NQ, right? Secondly, if you look how the days played out, even though this eliminated or minimized the chance of trend day up, you can still see that we were able to push up and to a new high. And we're going to end up most likely having a balanced day unless they sweep all the way through this range, which, again, is certainly possible, right? We have 50 to 100 point ranges in minutes. So NQ could hypothetically close plus 100. It could even close negative because we have 15 minutes and 100 points in 15 minutes on NQ and 50 points in ES is actually doable. Technically, we have 30 minutes, right? But I know that unless we get underneath this, so I can look to tomorrow and I can look through this afternoon. I know unless I get underneath these 2 points, right, odds are I'm going to push down, get into this anomaly, and come for a backside test. And this is where if I was going to press the short, I don't want to be pressing the short from an area where I have all these longs trapped above me for a push back in to the top of this structure over here to the left versus guessing up here based on what time frame you're trading on, whether it's going to roll over or not, right? Because sometimes that guess is right and sometimes it's dreadfully wrong. Okay, so now I knew I didn't have half gap. I didn't have gap fill. The next thing I knew is I didn't want to screw around in the first 30 minutes to hour of the day. Why? First of all the trades have been coming through, have been fantastic after the first hour. Secondly, we gapped and we opened drive higher, and I didn't want to guess whether this gap was going to fail or it was gap and go, right? B, I didn't want to chase. And you notice anyone who chased basically anything beyond the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes of the day, everyone, no matter what stop you used, everyone got their clock claimed. So there was nothing wrong with waiting past the first hour, whether you're looking to long or to short. This is the hardest period of time to trade right now for the whole day, both in ES and NQ. Now we're going to go look at NQ since that's where most of our trades were really quick because I realized with the waves, that's where I focused all our efforts, right? So if we switch back over to NQ and we're going to use the 8 range instead of the 5 range to do this effectively. We basically had similar setup in NQ. I'll give you a quick snapshot of the profile, right? And coming into the day, right, our primary thought process is we were above value area high, right, which is roughly 67.75. We gapped up. This is the first time in this entire roll down going all the way back to 10.17, right? This is the first time in almost 2 weeks we were able to trade above prior day's high. So if you think about it, if you've been short or you're institutionally short, you're kind of going, hey, if we can't trade above the prior day's high, I'm really not very motivated to cover my short. Well, that's changed. This means 2 things almost immediately, almost off the open. Number one, I'm looking for a change in character that does not necessarily mean straight up. And then B, in that change in character, that's usually going to, instead of meaning that it goes straight up, my guess is we go into a balance period. And if you wanted a good balance area, probably the bottom of this area right here in that 71.20 area, all the way down to 65.60, that covers almost 500 NQ points, and that would be a fantastic trading range to be stuck in for a while. And this gives me a clue, just like ES did, that we're going to change characters, and I can probably look to trade both sides of the trade versus assuming we're going to flip and go all the way back down to the low and break the low, or assuming that we're going to drive all the way back up to the high. My guess is the option that most unskilled traders would like is you get directional move, and the answer that I would most like is that we get 2-sided balance through there. The middle will be the hardest to trade, and the edges will provide fantastic trading opportunities. All right. So now looking at that and knowing that picture, again, when we go look at the 5-minute chart on NQ, switch over there really quick, and we can see from today, where are we? Ah, there we are. Lovely. Okay. Number one, failure to get below the first 5-minute low at any point in the day. Number two, failure to trade back into, if you look here, you move back a little bit. This was the 29th. That was the swing high. They actually fought this a little bit. And you'll notice what we're backside testing now is coming right back against this week's high Monday. This is Monday's high, right? So we open drove higher. We established Monday's high. They try to push underneath. They tried a second time. That failed. We drove all the way down right into support. By the way, a big shout out to Bill, who nailed the 69.36 long, right? And then finally drove all the way back up, attempted to break to the upside, and it looks like we're just going to end up in balance, closing somewhere in the mid, right, instead of melting. So now let's go down to the smallest time frame to see how we made our trading decisions, right? Which is going to require us really to look at the 8 range instead of the smaller range, because the smaller range is just going to be super noisy. We can't cover it accurately. So now that when we go look in the morning and we go to pre-market, right, I'm going to erase this all. Right, so we can reconstruct it from our charts, right? So when we look, right, number one, from overnight, that was our strongest push down overnight, right there. Before we walk in and before we start the day, we had a clear location of where support resistance would lie on NQ, right down there at 6,900, right? You can see as we roll towards the open, right, we never even bother retesting it. So the next thing I get is the biggest, strongest cumulative delta wave here. So I know something else. Not only do I have support here, but now I have a bigger push here. And so two things. Bulls won't want to get underneath it. That makes sense. That was the backside test of Globex high, right? Bulls won't want to get underneath it. And I have a clear area of support, even though that support area is getting wider, and I'd have to go do some more work in there. You can see once we got over that, backside tested and continued, right? So now instead of looking for the pushes to the upside, I already understand it's strong. I'm looking at the pushes to the downside for my potential setups, right? So I'm going to show you that. This was my first push to the downside, huge wave to the downside, biggest from overnight. And now I have a key marker, right? And I know two things about this. First of all, relative to how much up we're having, look how much negative delta was pushed in here. And I'm thinking when I see that delta, hey, they made almost no progress, right? They didn't even get past the last swing low over here to the left. If we get on top of that, continuation higher, but more importantly, that now becomes a strong support area. And if I get underneath it, that'll be a resistance area. Going quickly, right, because it's just a summary of what we've already done in the room today. Here's our next major push down. Again, why are these important? I already know the buyers are in control. I don't have to figure out where the strength is. I need to figure out when the sellers, if ever, are overtaking control. That marks off this area, right? So the first thing that you can see, right, when this wave came down right here, we get information from this wave. Number one, this wave was larger than the wave that preceded it over here. What does that tell me? Wow, they put a lot of effort again. They couldn't even make it past the high here. So I know two things. A, the top of that wave is probably going to act as support, and B, the bottom of that wave is going to act as support initially, followed by VWAP, right? So now we know that if we get underneath this wave, this will act as resistance above, and we're still going to have to work our way through. What's going to end up happening is we're going to end up ping-ponging from specific locations within these waves that I'm not going to go into right now. If you're in the room, you already know what I'm talking about. And you can see top of the wave, push back up. This wave provided resistance. This wave provided support, right? Push back up again. We get to the bottom of the wave, push all the way back up. That makes sense, right? Now we come down a second time. It didn't hold the second time, pushes right into VWAP, right? Right off of VWAP, back into resistance. Now this wave, the lower wave, is now acting as resistance, and you see the immediate rejection out. And what are we looking to hit now? This is our last buying wave, right? Right here at 69.3450. And this is our last selling wave. That's where Bill's coming up with a 36.50. Got it. Now I understand. Okay. Now if you look, we came back in, we pressed, we pressed, we pressed. No luck, right? See how that wave, see how this first sell wave over here, these guys pressed real hard and got trapped, right? But now that they're underneath, the buyers above this guy are trapped and these guys are defending. That's why you can't make any progress above. And the whole wave or areas within that wave are acting as support and resistance, right? Then as you push down, right? See how we push right to the top of the next wave, come back in, and where do we find resistance? Bottom, right? Now I want to show you where we flipped our hat short, right? So Bill already figured out that we were long. If you grab the long, some people were long here, some people weren't. And then the backside test over the 69.40 was a good area as well for push back up. And the idea would be to trade back into this wave over here, right? And that's exactly what happened. Now I want to show you something. Once we got back into this wave over here, right? Show you this. Once we pushed past what was I using as a trigger? I had 84 as a long. Why did I do 84 as a long? 84. Oh, there's a point of control in here. I'm not going to draw it out. That's what I had. So from upstairs, this whole last push up, I believe that was the draw. So if I come from here all the way over to here, that last swing, and I get the point of control, that was 90. How did I get 84? Okay, I don't remember how I came up with the 84, but I know that when we got to the 84, I know I was using the 84 against the 75, right? Or 90 against the 75 stop. And I think somehow, so somewhere in here, there's a point of control. I don't remember how I came up with it, but we came up with 84 on the backside test, which was this right here. And you can see there somewhere in here is a point of control that I've forgotten how I came to at this point, but it was right here, right at 84. And you can see once we got above, I said you can now use the backside test. As long as it doesn't break 75, you probably have a push to the upside. And if you look how that treated it, what you then needed, right? What you then needed was a second close above here to get the push to the upside, and you got it. I wasn't here to manage this trade at this point because I scaled out, I think, at plus 20, if I recall. Or maybe I scaled out plus 10 and then plus 20, and I left my trailer. I forget what my scales were set up, right? And then you can see that we balanced. We obviously, what changed up here, and I wasn't here to push this, is see these big pushes right here, guys? Had I been here, see this push and then this push right here? So we can draw a line underneath them, right? Just carve that out. Watch what happens when we get underneath. See how we got underneath there? And that's where we're at right now. This served as support from above. See how those down pushes on trend days up are more important than the up waves or the down waves? And again, this is what I would have targeted for longs. And I know now that we're underneath and overnight, this is now your overnight overhead resistance for a push to the downside. And if you get above these waves, which are all the way up here, as I said, it's very poorly auctioned above, and really the extended target up is around 70-60 to 70-80 in that neighborhood. So I didn't make it up there, and I got tagged out. I put my stop at 95, which was just below the swing low back over here. I forget when, but I moved it up to 95. At any rate, it came back in and tagged it back over here and stopped me, and no big deal. I'm all right with that. So does anyone have any questions over that, guys? Are we cool? That pretty much sums up the day, and I think everyone had an awesome day. I want to remind everyone, even in the smaller account here, right, where you see my P&L activity, right? It's not all roses, but you can do it with a small account, okay? You can see here on my running profit loss, I started off plus 50, and then you can see I ran it all the way down to minus 265, right? Then you can see I started to make that run to the upside. And once I got that run to the upside, it became relatively easy to manage. But you can look in the left-hand column. You can see I did take some losses as I was making my way up towards my total P&L in the small account. And it is very repeatable. That's all I have to say. So anyways, I'm tired. I'm out of here. And I have a coaching session right after the close. So I hope that helped. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Pretty straightforward, by the way, on the open tomorrow when we look at the profile look here on NQ and on ES. Hey, you're very welcome, Karen. When we look at ES tomorrow, it's pretty damn straightforward. This is under auction. The market likes to fill this in. You're very welcome, Jackson. So the key things to keep in mind, we're closing underneath value. Number one, easy. Blue area, that's your general resistance. If you're short, you want that to hold underneath the value area low at 27.15-ish, right? And if you fill the gap, your obviously target is Dalton's gap fill and the half gap in between here. Just measure it out. Measure from here to here. Whatever the half gap is, let's see, it's 26.90, 27.07. It's got to be right in here at 95. And there's a naked volume point of control that's been untested from either side. Likely response there the first time, right? And then what buyers really, really, really want to see, right? If you're long, you do not want that baby back underneath 27.07. You're in trouble if you're back into this balance area. And closing back into this range, if we look from the weekly, right, which will flip really quick. If you look at the weekly, these guys want to hold above this value area at all cost, above 27.07. That's this week's top of the value area, right? The POC is all the way down here at 2660. Below 2660, you're probably retesting 2600. Wide ranges are very possible, and this is still, from a bigger perspective, that 2757 to 2763, very strong resistance. Look for reversal patterns up here. Okay, guys? Have a good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll post charts after the market. See you later, guys.